Welcome to an out-of-the-box print and play tutorial. Today I am revisiting building custom dice. So I am currently building Crisis Imperator. And for this particular game you have to have custom dice. And here is a couple of dice that I've built. And I thought, well, I'm using a new method to build my dice this time. So I thought, well, I'll do a video so you can see what your options are. So I am working with standard 15mm cubes that you can pick up from a normal craft store. When you get this particular print and play build, it comes with two ways of building your custom dice. So you've got your traditional T shape for your dice, or they've also provided a thinner one that allows you to do the four sides around there and then top and tail the other end. So I guess you do this one first with the idea, and then you wrap these ones around the outside. I'm not going to use either. Well, I'm going to do a combination. These are the tokens. I'm not going to touch those. So if we cut these out, which is your kind of usual way, you get your 6 sides of your dice. You could throw your dice in there and you could then glue them on, which kind of works, but it's not that it's not that great because you've got a lot of edges, and because you've got the turning on there, which is fine if you like that. The other way you could do it is you could chop them all off one at a time and then just glue them on individually, which I guess would work. But what I've done with these ones, and what I'm going to show you today, is something a little different. I'll just see if I can zoom this in. You can see I've rounded all the corners. So every edge I've used a corner rounder. One of these. This is a Neo, I think it's a Neo Pro corner rounder, and I've rounded all the corners, which then becomes how you're going to do that for if you cut these off, there's no way you can fit them in there because you've got to, they'll just disappear into your corner rounder. And that's kind of what today's about, is looking at how we deal with that. First, we need to do a bit of prep. So I've got a permanent marker, and I am going to take one of my cubes, and the first thing you need to do is just blacken the edges, because we're going to be gluing these on and we don't want any black edges, any white edges. So we do that, and we will, you don't have to do the middles because you're going to glue it on there, and you just get around your cube and color it in. I like using a permanent marker because then it's easy to use and they're easy to find. It'll probably work with a whiteboard pen as well. And you just carry on doing that until you've done all of them, and I've got a couple that I prepared earlier, so you end up with your dice ready to go. So I'm not going to use these ones because they're not going to work with the method I'm going to show you today, but I am going to use, I've been doing it with these ones. So you can use, I guess I could use scissors. I've got my corner trimmer, but you just cut these off. The trick is though, is when you cut them, is keep the strips. So you don't want to cut them, so you want to cut them in a strip, but keep the ends. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fold this over. So I've got my one, and actually I can probably do that a little bit closer. There we go, on the black edge, and then I'll around these corners. But now I've got it on a strip, I can get my corner rounder and go for small, and then it'll fit in. And I can push that down into there, line that up, and do that corner, which I did very badly, so let's try that again. Okay, there we go. That's better. And then we flip it around, and then we do the other end. And so there we've got nice round good corners. Then the temptation, of course, would be to chop it off and do the next one. But that's where the trick is. Well, the kind of trick is you don't cut it off till the very end. So we fold this over now, and because we want all of them rounded, we then put that in there, and we push that down. Oops, that didn't go very well. Let's try that again. I'm not quite getting it in the right place. There we go, that's better. And we turn this round, and I'll tell you why we do that in a minute. Where that's large, that's small. And then we'll get this down here. Oh, it's a bit fiddly. Now, you can see we've done that one. And so we've done one, and now we've done the first half of two. And we can carry on doing that. So one of the tricks with this is, when you put it in, you don't want to, so if I do this one here now, well, it's probably only really a problem with the two, when I did the two. If you do this, you don't want to stick it in that way, because if it opens up inside the cutter, it's going to be tricky to get out. So you want to make sure that the small end is underneath. And if that's the case, then you're pretty much good to go. So we just carry on and make sure we're doing small. We'll do that one into there. And I've done that badly, so let's try that again. Got to make sure that it's got the right curve on it. And you're slipping it into your corner cutter. Okay, and then we spin it around. And then do the other side. So that's 3. And then we do the next one. Around again. Now we're going to make sure that we get the small end is underneath, so that it doesn't get caught when we pull it out inside the mechanisms of our corner cutter, because that would be a disaster. And I think I've just got one more to do. Okay, that's good. Again, make sure that the small edge is underneath. You feed it in. And let's turn it around to the other side. Okay, so now we have got them cut. Then you can cut them off. So you get your scissors. And we'll cut these off. Oh. I find that when I do it this way, I don't get the pointy edges on the dice, which means they don't catch so much and peel off, which is kind of handy. Okay, so then the other thing you need to do is you get your marker pen, preferably have a black surface, and then you just have a look on the edges to see if there's any white. So if you look at this one, I've got some white on the edging, which I must probably want to tidy up a bit. So we'll just get our marker pen and then just give that a little bit of an edging. So when it goes on our dice, and that's why it's handy to have a black surface, and then you can just check all your edges and just tidy them up a bit. Now, I'm not going to do the whole dice. The other thing you need to watch is when you glue it. I often do it in two stages, and I'll show you why in a minute. One, you don't want to get glue everywhere, and two, you don't want your labels to shift. I guess if I printed this onto an adhesive sheet, that would be even easier. But I don't have any adhesive sheets, so that's not going to work for me. Okay, so now I've got all my edges. Then you get one of your dice, you get your glue stick, you liberally coat the edge. So that it goes right to the edge, and then you pick a number and you slide it on. And there we go. So there it is, nice and centered on there. Then what I find is that it's good to do all the ones around the edge when you first go, and then when they've dried, then you do the, oh, that's a disaster. Then you do the other two, so that you can hold the top. I'm going to look at my existing dice to make sure that I get them all on the same orientation. So now I need a 2. And I'll stick a 2 on there. And like I say, by having those rounded corners, not having the points, when you pick up the dice, it's less likely to catch, and I find it doesn't flick off the glued face, which is handy. Next one's another 2. I guess I'll just do one more because this isn't going to then be the most exciting time. But you get the idea. And then if you decide when you're looking at it that some of the edging isn't quite as dark as you want, you can always go over that with a permanent marker. Anyway, you carry on doing that and you end up with something like this. Nice custom dice, which is really easy to do. Previously, I've got some clear varnish and put that over as a finishing surface. Recently with my builds, I haven't bothered. I don't typically have dirty fingers when I'm playing my board games, so I'm not too bothered. I guess if I did seal them, that would stop it peeling, but I haven't had much peeling in the past anyway. So there you go. That's how I am now building my custom dice, by rounding the corners of the sides before I glue them on. I think it gets a better bond and it looks really good. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe and like.